My father was pretty critical about Putin. He joined the opposition in 2007, and he was one of the most powerful voices of the Russian opposition up to his death in 2015. He did not expect he would be killed. And why? He said, I used to be one of the most high-profile officials in Russia. Putin will never do that to me because I was in the government. He was wrong. He was killed on the Bolshoi Moskvoretsky bridge on the 27th of February 2015. It is basically in the heart of Moscow, just in front of the Kremlin walls. There are a lot of cameras in this area because it's regarded as something strategically important because Putin sits somewhere behind the Kremlin walls. But the secret services claim that they don't have any video footage of the moment of the assassination because all the cameras were turned off, which I don't believe. The investigation failed intentionally to answer the key questions.
A Russian court has convicted 5 men of murdering opposition leader and Kremlin critic Boris Nemtsov.
So there was a trial, and they are now serving their terms in prison, but nothing else. So they don't want to identify who masterminded my father's assassination and what was the motive behind the assassination. So we all understand that it was a politically motivated assassination, but the Central Investigative Committee doesn't want to admit that. So the idea is to forget about it.
Can I ask you very specifically, do you think President Putin ordered your father to be killed?
I don't have evidence, but politically he is responsible.
I couldn't imagine what career I could pursue in Russia because I was very outspoken about my father's case, about the investigation and its bad quality. I was quite critical of the regime. So these were the reasons why I decided to leave, one of which, of course, were security concerns, while the other was a lack of any prospects. First was the governor of the province of Nizhny Novgorod, and he moved up the career ladder really fast. So in 1997 he ended up in the Russian government. He was the first vice-primeiro-minister of the Russian government, and he was one of the most popular reformers in the government, and that's why he was invited by Yeltsin. Yeltsin was Russia's first president, and at some point of time in 1994, Yeltsin visited Nizhny Novgorod, and in an interview with a local journalist, he was asked, "How do you assess Boris Nemtsov's work here?" And Yeltsin responded, "Oh, I think he has made tremendous progress. I'm very happy with what's going on here in Nizhny Novgorod with all the reforms being implemented. And I think that it's time for him to become my successor." Yes, and it was it made headlines. It did not happen because of the oligarchs, shortly speaking. Because in the 90s, the oligarchs influenced Yeltsin very much and influenced the policies pursued by the government very much. And the goal of the oligarchs was to get as rich as possible and to get control over major industries in a country. So to basically privatize it, but not to pay a lot of money. So my father wanted to change that, and that's why the oligarchs started to fight with him. They were pretty clever to promote an image of my father as a politician who was not a serious person. So they ruined my father's career not because they possessed any information that could undermine his integrity, but they just portrayed him as a funny, not really serious person who could not run the country. So then Putin was chosen by the oligarchs mainly, and of course he got elected because he had a lot of resources he could use. And my father understood Putin early, but one of the most important things that he criticized the annexation of Crimea. He was a rare voice and powerful voice.
Это антивоенный марш, антивоенный митинг. Это митинг против безумства Путина.
My father organized the protest for peace, and it attracted more than 50,000 people. So there were voices against the annexation of Crimea, but the mainstream attitude was positive in our society, unfortunately. Literally 90-something% supported the annexation of Crimea. It was very difficult to say something against that, and many opposition politicians, they didn't want to risk their support base. But my father adhered to his principles and he spoke his mind, and he was absolutely right about Putin's intentions to conquer Ukraine.
Вот. Я считаю, что то, что он делает, это катастрофа для России и катастрофа для всех граждан нашей страны.
My father was a pacifist. He was against any military solutions to any problems. He was not a warmonger at all. So if my father had been president, that's obvious. Russia wouldn't have been at war with Ukraine or any other country, any other neighbor. I think it would have been more integrated into the global world. It would have probably had a more democratic state. We would have had political competition in our country. Probably somebody more reactionary would have won. My father, I don't know.
Critics of the government, critics of Putin, bad things seem to happen to them.
Yes, unfortunately, existing power represent, let I say, Russia of 19th century, not of 21st.
Putin has destroyed Russia's civil society, at least institutionally. Navalny, who is in jail, Ilya Yashin, who is in jail, Vladimir Karamurza, who is in jail. These are dissenting voices. So opposition exists in Portugal, opposition exists in the United Kingdom, in Germany, in democracies. But Russia is a dictatorship. So what is the state of opposition in the North Korea?